Today we're cooking up some fun.
We interrupt this video to bring you a special message from iFixit. No, we interrupt this interruption with this interruption about new stuff from iFixit. Wish you had a new graphics card but inventory sucks? Fix the inventory problems with iFixit. Whoa, don't drop it. Can't fix that with iFixit. Just kidding, yes you can. Wish you could take iFixit with you anywhere but your pockets aren't big enough? Introducing the new More
And the new Minnow.
Take them with you anywhere. So get iFixit for your loved ones or just get them for yourself.
So this CPU, as you may or may not recall, is my 3600 non-X that I got for that eBay system. And a lot of you guys were mad that I didn't return it for a full refund, which, like, full disclosure, I waited too long to even look at it because I went on vacation after I got it and I was past the 30-day. The seller did reach out and say that they would have taken it back, but we are gonna go ahead and do what you guys suggested, which is just try to repair the thing. So as you can see, I've surrounded myself with the proper tools to try and do it properly, but this is me we're talking about here, so it could go any which way. I got myself a dead CPU right here. This is a known non-working CPU that I'll be practicing on and taking some pins off. But before I have 3 pins to repair on the 3600. But this is like my rework, my soldering / rework / power supply that I bought. And I'll put a link to this exact one down in the description. I got it off eBay, it was about 184 bucks. There's probably cheaper versions out there, but like I said, this one specifically not only has a 5-volt USB power supply, it has a DC power supply here. We can do test voltage. We can also have specific voltage output. I have my rework station, which means my heat gun with all the different size tips and stuff, which is what we're obviously gonna need today. And then obviously my soldering gun right here, which I should take that off now before I forget later. I'm excited about the fact that it has a working power supply, because one of the things I've always wanted to be able to do is to test things like fan voltages, startup voltages, overvolting like fans and things like that, just for fun. But I can find what the startup voltage is for fans. So you can see right there, it's at 4 volts, not starting. 5 volts typically is where you start to see movement on a 12-volt fan. But you know what, what happens if we go 15 volts? So we can start testing that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? But anyway, just a little side bit as to why I got this particular unit. Fortunately, this particular Amazon unit, again, not sponsored, I bought this, comes with a ton of different types of soldering tips. So, you know, wedge tips, like pyramid, like 3-sided, the actual like fine tip, which is what we're using right here, an extremely fine tip. Different tips for the rework gun, the heat gun, so that we can focus the heat a little better rather than heating up the whole CPU and having pins start falling all over the place. We can kind of keep it somewhat controlled. And the aluminum foil here, this is just gonna be to kind of protect my surface area here. I'm just trying to keep everything as proper as possible and from melting. I got my eye on you. So anyway, I got the helping hands to hold the CPU. Now, if I were doing this truly properly, I would have ordered myself some sort of like a soldering microscope, because this is so tiny. Having it under a soldering microscope and really making it like 100 times bigger or something than what it is would have been preferred. Instead, I chose to go with a very weak magnifying glass. Okay, so we're at 700 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 375, 380 C, or Fahrenheit. Wait, what? I can smell it now. Ah, it's blowing towards my hand. Ow! All right, so that's 451 degrees. I'm gonna leave that in the little safety catch deal there.
Okay, it's heated. It's so fast.
Really?
Welcome to modern soldering.
Holy crap!
Jay only uses like the really crappy like.
I've only ever used like $8 Radio Shack little plugins. I literally was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. It's done. I'm like, what? I'm losing my pins. I don't know where they're going. That's pretty solid. So out of the 6 I removed, I successfully put 1 back on crooked. This is why we practice. In an hour.
Yeah.
This is why we practice. But we were playing with temperatures and stuff. Had to change the tip on this guy because it just, I couldn't get a ball of solder on there. That was the problem. All right, so an hour and a half at least later, one burned pinky because when I set it down, I accidentally put my pinky on there and it's blistering up. Then, you know, that gets hot. It's pretty hot. If it's hot enough to melt solder, it's hot enough to melt J. Anyway, so I put the 3600 on here now because I have now removed from the 2200G 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pins, and I've got one back on there successfully. But it started dawning on me here that I have to remove the pad, like the base. So the pin looks like a thumbtack, right? So you've got the pin part, which would be the pricky part of the tack, and then you've got the base of the tack. So when you heat it and you pull it off, that base comes off with it. The broken pins, the base is still attached. So I'm like, the next step here is I have to at least get those off. If I can't get those off, then that's not gonna matter. So I'm moving on now to at least getting the 3600 ready, because I'm now looking at it this way. The CPU doesn't work as it is. So I could sit here and practice all day long. I feel like I've got enough practice to kind of just go, okay, we can at least try and make this work now. I now have an idea of the temperatures. It's just my real issue here is the optics. I need, like when we took my phone and put the macro lens on there and I could clearly see what was happening, like it showed you with the solder ball, that's what I need. The thing is I can't tell when I'm lined up on the pad, because more than once I've gotten the pin soldered on. The problem was it was overhanging off the pad and touching the pad next to it, and that's clearly not good. And that's just because of the fact that I'm only getting like a 2x optic zoom with this magnifying glass. So I need a better magnifying glass. In fact, I might even just have to see if Target or something has some and send Nick to go get one, because I'm getting to the point here to where I am limited by this magnifying glass. I need a bigger, stronger, but anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check real quick and see if they have any bigger magnifying glasses, and then I'm gonna try and get these broken pads off of the CPU, because if I can't get those off or I screw that up, then it's all moot anyway. Can't see! Now you see why working with a microscope would be so much nicer, because that's like the view I would have of it. That's the one I had to re-straighten right there, and then there's something down there. I think that's the pad. So there's clearly solder on there, which is good, but I think that's the pad I took off of that one. Or something. There's something right there. I don't know what that is. The thing is, I can't see it with this. I'm about to just give up. Honestly, I'm about to just give up. Because this is so, I can't see. I can't see, that's the problem. Like, do I have knocked over a million pins? That guy died.
What have you done? Let's see.
I just had that bad.
Wow.
So I got that pad off. I knocked that guy over on accident. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I started to do this right way, but the problem is I have no visibility. So what I'm gonna be ordering next is an actual HDMI display soldering microscope that also has an HDMI output, so we can put like the BFGD or a monitor or something right here so you guys can see over my shoulder what's happening as I'm doing it, so that we can try and do this the right way. I'm sorry if this video seems like just a complete cluster, because it kind of is. But what I learned here so far is kind of like the temperatures needed to take some pins off. Fortunately, there's no damage to the CPU. This is still perfectly fixable. And I'm not gonna give up on this. I really wanna see if I can't get this thing up and running and working. Corsair brings gaming to the next level with the Xeneon 45-inch flexible OLED Xeneon Flex display. With up to 240 Hz refresh rate, 0.03 millisecond gray-to-gray response time, motion blur canceling, anti-reflective coating, burn-in protection, and customizable bend based on user's preference, the Xeneon Flex from Corsair allows gamers to truly tailor their display to their liking. Click the link below for more details. So after enough screwing around with trying to see what the heck I was doing with a magnifying glass, I went ahead and got an actual rework station microscope deal. Not a super expensive one, it was about 219 bucks on Amazon. But you know what? Hooked up to a 34-inch monitor, I could definitely see what the heck I'm doing now. So what we're doing is it comes with a 10.1-inch screen, which is off because it doesn't actually pass through HDMI and show me the display, which is fine, I wanted the larger display. But we're capturing it through our capture card so you guys can actually see what I'm doing now. So now that you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm back to the 2200G to practice. These are some really fine tweezers and it really gives you, well, look, if I point with my finger, I'm like, there's the pin. So you can see just how small it is. It's 0.48 millimeters. But anyway, this is the pin right here that I said scooted off its pad. And as you can see, it's obviously bridging. I'm back to trying to practice on the 2200G. Oh, and if you wanna see just how much I messed stuff up, and yes, I am still using the Gorilla Tape to kind of hold it in place. If you guys know of a better solution to keep it from sliding around, I'd like to hear it. Because it did leave some residue on this CPU from heating it up and then letting it cool off. Fortunately, when this is fixed and it's socketed in a CPU socket, I can hit it with some like Goo Gone and get all this off. That's not a problem. But check out just how messed up I made this one. It's not that bad. I mean, you can see, remember I told you I had 7 that I knocked off? So that one scooted, where is it? That one scooted off its pad a little bit. It's a little too close over there. It's not centered where it should be anymore. That one came off entirely. I can see there's still some solder on there. It looks like it might even be bridged right there slightly, so I need to check stuff like that out. Probably hit this all with flux, because you can see the little solder bits, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I have to repair. Remember, 3 was what I started with, so that's how bad I did this yesterday with just trying to use a magnifying glass. Again, I had almost all the right tools. I need to scoot this one back over. So now I'm back to practicing on the 2200G, simply because I do not want to create more and more and more work for me as I go with trying to get this done. Okay, so one of the things I've changed from yesterday is I turned the fan down on the rework gun because I was obviously hitting the area around I wanted to work with too much heat, and that's what made some of these start sliding over. That, coupled with the fact that I couldn't really see what I was doing, meant I was bumping things with the tweezers all over the place. So I'm gonna try with a lower fan speed right now. Might have to hold it on there a little bit longer just to see if I can get a little bit better control over what I'm doing here. So I'm going to now grab this one. I keep wanting to look like physically at what I'm doing. Oh, look at that. You saw it. Saw it move. Look at that. It's like the flux or something there. Oh, it came off and then it went flying. I also brought my brush. That way I can brush on the flux where I want. So I'm gonna practice just sort of applying some flux to this. Look at that. See how it cleaned up those pads? There's still a little bit of solder. All right, there you go. So I'm using the wick and some heat with the heat gun, I was able to clean that pad all up. I still think it's really close to that one, but we think it's okay because if you look at the factory ones, they're all pretty dang close. But then again, they're done by robots, which are perfect. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just see if I can't take a pin off somewhere else again, and then I guess see if I can't get it reattached. So I've got the ceramic tweezers on there and I'm trying to do a much more downward angle of heat. There we go. Ah, it's so much easier to take off now with the lower fan speed. I'm at 3 versus 8. How am I going even a little bit lower? You can kind of see on there, I was telling Phil how it's like textured in a way to like bite into the pad. So you see how it's like a, it's not flat, it's like a pyramid-y kind of a deal. All right, so playing with some temperatures, learning the fact that we were actually having to put the heat or the speed back up higher again with this small nozzle.
The Count Rush art.
Like, I couldn't pull it up. It got stuck for a second there. Okay, so it means I'm on the right path here, although there's a lot of solder on there. Now if I could just go pin to freaking stick, because I'm now like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pins missing from this CPU, and I haven't got a single freaking one to stick. It's okay. Practice makes Jay a mediocre repairer guy. Wait, it looks like I did it with plaster, but it's on there. Yeah. Okay, so now I can just work on, is it gonna stay? Yeah, but look at how much squish there is. I did it, I did one. Look at that right there. Solid as the rest, it's a little crooked, I can straighten that up after. Wow, it's funny how like I was sitting here struggling, and then it just suddenly was like, ta-da! All right, so I think I got a bridge right there I gotta fix, but I've got that one in, that one's a little crooked, but I'll straighten it. That one in, that one in, that one in, and that one in. It's a little crooked, but I can straighten it. Man, so much trial and error in this. It's very frustrating. I've like given up so many times already and walked away from it and screamed and cussed, but it's slowly but surely going. At the very least, this is probably the smallest scale I would ever have to deal with on something like this. This is equal parts fun to equal parts frustrating, to be honest. You can see those pads, the 4 pads that are together right there, kind of making a square, those are for sure don't have enough solder on them. We're also pretty convinced that the wick at this scale doesn't work very well. Very well. The strands obviously don't make it all to the eye, but they are huge. Oh, I just knocked a pin over. But I'm about to call this quits on here because we've literally been at this all day. Well, I say we. I mean, Phil gave it a stab for a second. He got a pin to stick and then he completely doused the pin in solder, like the whole pin itself. So lots of learning curve. Money.
That was
God, it's only taking me 2 days to learn. Soldering is a technique, an art form almost. Nice.
I've never been so invested in like a stupid pin.
Okay, I'm down to 4 pins left. It's not the prettiest looking job ever, but then again, most don't have to replace like 17 pins because they started with 3 missing. I feel like I'm on a little bit better trajectory than Linus was. Okay, so we have a problem here. We think this pad is gone. Like that might just be the underside of this material right here maybe. And I do know there's little pads on there that are stuck to the pins that can be pulled off. And I think that's what happened. We cannot get solder to stick to it. If you look at the outside, there's a ring of solder. That's probably where some of the metal like substrate stuff is. But that, we cannot, it doesn't feel like metal. It feels like, almost like wood, plastic. So that means I'm not gonna be able to fix this because if that little pad area came off and it's screwed up. But anyway, there's way too much solder on those pads that are left because we were just like, okay, let's try the method of too much and see what happens. Cannot get the solder to stick to it at all. That's why you just saw my iron. I mean, do you want your proof that I've done this a million times? I mean, this is all the practice, okay? There we go. See, solder right there. Now if I come over here, it absolutely will not stick to that because there's no solder there because there's nothing to do. So if I go to like the one below it, right? Or just send it flying because, you know, I've been doing that all day long. I'm literally covered in pins. Like my whole shirt and the table is just completely covered in pins. See how that one came off? Anyway, so let's get that one lined up. Hit it with heat. See the solder flow around it. Stop moving it. And it's a little off center. I was actually burning my hand right there, so I had to kind of let go of it. I can go ahead and scoot it. Like here's the thing, I feel confident now. If I only had to prepare 1, 2, or 3 pins like I did when I started this, not having to learn on it, it'd have been fine. I don't know if I took the pad off. I guess I did, because none of those were missing. But anyway, you can see that one's a firm attached pin. And I've been screwing around with these. I replaced all these again. Remember how all these were missing right here? These up here were missing. I had knocked that one off trying to figure out what was going on here, but I truly believe there's a missing pad right there. Because that doesn't feel right. So anyway, I can't fix this one because I think that's a missing pad. So let me get that out of here and allow me to bring you to the thing that made Louis Rossmann really kind of hate me, and that's that guy right there.
Oh God, I've never seen it this blown up. It's horrible now.
Remember that was when Louis was like, it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair because he saw it work.
He's like actively avoiding the pad. What is going on?
Yeah, he saw that, right? It ran away from the pad. It will not stick to it. All right, so since it's a perfectly good 2080 Ti, do whatever. I'm gonna steal this 5 volt or 5 milliohm. See, it keeps showing 5 volt. This 5 milliohm right here. I guess I have to do this with the heat gun, huh? It's melting it. Look.
Jeez.
This whole endeavor has just been like a
Frick.
UJ. Okay, you guys told me to try and fix the CPU. Clearly I couldn't, and I can't even get a piece off of the board here. That's clearly solder. Just adamantium solder. I'm sure there's something I'm obviously doing wrong. Probably not getting even heat across it or something. It started to melt the middle of the other one though. It's crazy. Oh, this is just a video of like, you know what? Jay still sucks at soldering. Actually, no.
No,
you know what?
Significantly less though.
Those pins, that is not easy, okay? By any means at all. All right, you know what though? I'm happy, I still am happy I got all this stuff, honestly, because I had to do some research on why we couldn't get that 5 milliohm resistor to do something. Like why we couldn't, that's probably is like an electronics weld, to be honest. But you know what though, I got a lot of practice. I did repair, and they're all cooking now because I hit them with heat, but I did repair like all these pins right here and these guys right here. And when I was up looking through it with the light, they were all perfectly aligned. And even the ones that look all crooked, they're still not. Like they're straight enough to where they would socket, believe it or not. I would just have to do the razor to straighten them out. So anyway, after 2 days of trying, I was able to successfully replace a lot of the pins. It's just, it's very picky. Obviously, it's very picky on, I need to tin my soldering iron. It's very picky on the temperatures, the amount of solder, the kind of solder. We were dealing with 2 different kinds of solders here. I literally have pins everywhere all over the table. Just, there's everywhere you look, there's shiny gold pins. Anyway, I feel like even though it wasn't quote unquote successful where we could see the CPU boot or anything, and like I didn't even get all the pins replaced. In fact, I have more pins missing than I started with. I feel like I learned a lot. And as such, I feel like I can continue to practice and get better. Because soldering is absolutely why do I have it so high? Soldering is absolutely a technique that has to be practiced and learned, and I have full intent on doing that because I want to start soldering wire links and custom headers and things for this channel, like when I do my custom builds. And this is the only way I'm going to be able to do that. Is just keep practicing. So I've got my helping hands, I got my magnifying glass, I got my microscope. I feel like, you know, I would be able to. I feel like I'd be able to get it done good enough, if that makes sense. Anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. Tell me why that pad is missing. How, maybe I got it too hot when I pulled it off. Tell me why I couldn't get that 5 milliohm shunt off. And just, I guess, tell me the other things that you think would make my life a little bit easier if I'm gonna keep doing this. And don't say, take it to professional, because clearly I'm professional. I'm a professional idiot. I'm okay with that. You shut up over there. No one asked you. Yeah, you in the back too, I'm talking to you.